gracious friends of freedom, the infinite possibility of each hour ought to be pondered by a life stream desiring to develop the lustrous quality of service unto God. Service, precious ones, is an act of the compassion of God, ministering as the Good Samaritan did unto the fallen and those in need. I am grateful that we have here in this fraternity responsive hearts who understand the meaning of the quick and the dead. Those who are quickened are always desiring to expand the spark of life in those who are dead, because they do not realize the life that is within them, and the activity of mortality surrounds them as a shroud. As I spake when embodied as Francis Bacon, let us then shuffle off this mortal coil. As I speak to you today, it is with the continuing admonishment of the need to shuffle off the densities of the coil of mortality, and that you might replace it by the mighty power of immortality. The body of God, the deathless solar body, is builded up in mankind by the spiraling currents of immortal life, through elements of service, through elements of love, through elements of wisdom, and through elements of power. Through drawing forth from the Godhead the right manifestation of these qualities of God, and using them wisely, lovingly, and powerfully, men are able to weld together a noble instrument for the fashioning of new gifts of freedom to all mankind. And the need is very great and continuing. And the calls of mankind are almost frightful when heard from inner levels, for they cry and travail with a great sobbing of the soul as it seeks to uncoil itself from the fantastic devices mankind have imposed upon one another in their bitterness, in their hatred, in their rebellion, and in their resentment against the powers of light, which only seek to produce the freedom and blessing of life to all mankind. Now I would like to call to your attention, ladies and gentlemen, how that mankind are indeed their own worst enemies. You see, precious ones, they know better and do not do better. They know better and go directly opposite to the course which they know to be right. Have you ever asked yourself this question as to just why it is that individuals possessing a rationality which is considered sanity by mankind will turn about and do the very things that bring forth their own destruction and unhappiness? And worse than that, precious ones, they will often continue to do them even after the ravages of disease and the afflictions brought upon them by the returning karma have shown them the complete folly of their course. Do you not see then what it means to be in the traitor's toils, how that mankind have betrayed their own best interests by accepting a standard which is so low that it is not even fit to discuss? Precious ones, I call to your attention then that there is a great need, and I pray that you acknowledge it. The first step in the correction of need is for mankind to acknowledge that the need exists. When mankind say to one another, all is well, all is good, all is beneficent, and it is not so, is this intended to bribe the lords of karma, or to create the idea that God's winking at ignorance is also the winking of the karmic board, seeing the karmic board is charged with the solemn responsibility of administering the return currents of karmic manifestation? I would like to call to your attention, ladies and gentlemen, that karma is an inviolate act governed by the supreme law of the universe, and the Almighty himself will not set aside the laws of karma simply because when he made the laws of the universe, he set them up with purity and equity and the virtue of his own being as the standard, and this cannot be altered. To do so would be to alter the very structure of the deity, and would bring to mankind not the blessings of the future, but would bring to mankind the same type of life which you now lead, that which mankind is reaping, the folly, the pain, the stain, and all that is deceitful now practiced currently upon earth. Therefore, the high standard of purity, the great shining shield of light, the power of freedom's rod will continue to blaze forth their symbolic and actual tangible gifts to mankind, and mankind may have their choice, either accept them or reject them. Do as you will, may be distorted as it has been by the sinister force, to provide license for mankind to do exactly as he pleases. But I assure you, it does not change the course of karma, or change the course of rivers or streams, or upset the mountains which are fixed in their places. Only the powers of God are able to do these things. Although mankind may have faith in the power of matter and substance, they will one day recognize that there is no power but God's power that can act. And in this recognition, changes will be wrought in the interest of a continuing and permanent freedom. O blessed and beloved ones, I cannot stress enough then your recognition day after day of the need, for in that recognition there will come from your heart a great summoning of the power of God to meet the exigencies of the hour and to rally to the cause of freedom. Freedom is born from the heart of God, but it is sustained upon the planetary body by an action of acceptance on the part of mankind. And I assure you that complacency will not provide you the freedom that you seek, but diligence, eternal diligence, is the price of your liberty. You must then recognize full well the need to reinforce virtue in one another and to cease and desist from destroying one another by senseless carping criticism, which is not based upon the power of divine love, but upon a misplaced authority of judgment, which has not been given unto you and will never be given unto you so long as you feel the need to criticize any part of life anywhere. You see, precious ones, the power to be a member of the karmic board is given to an ascended being after they have absorbed the full quality of Kuan Yin, the goddess of mercy, and never until they have passed through all of the initiations and rituals of her temple are they able to take their place upon the karmic board. The first consideration to be a member of the karmic board is the quality of mercy, and it is first, and justice is secondary to it. Therefore, I would call to your attention that if mankind would only recognize the need to drop the gentle quality of mercy upon life, they would understand its meaning more fully and have it active in their world as principle in a more spiritual manifestation, less charged with the critical attitude of mankind, which I must confess is brittle and causes men to break as fine glass and scatter their energies over the earth and hold no continuing worthy matrix. Now then, mindful of the needs of this hour, rally to respond to the ministrations of God, to take a vigilant overlook over the affairs of men. You are here for a purpose, and that purpose is the bringing to the ignorant the law of God. You have heard it said that he who taketh the sword shall perish with it. But the sword of truth is the discriminating intelligence of God himself, which will cause mankind to rally round the cause of truth and the upholding of righteousness and justice in all lands. Now then, awake, O mankind of earth, to the need to reinforce and implement the cause of freedom and justice simultaneously. You cannot sit idly by and do nothing whatsoever while the forces of shadow destroy piecemeal the youth of the world. You cannot sit idly by while the heritage of the ages is wrecked by those who have exactly no idea of that which they do. It may be well in the name of Christ to say, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. But consider the havoc that is wreaked upon a society that has invested in it thousands and thousands of martyrs' lives. Consider, precious ones, all the accomplishments of mankind that are now brought this day to the fore for the benefit of humanity and society. And men are glad in their own simple human way to rejoice in the fatness of the land, but they do not recognize the need to reinforce the star of spiritual power, not only in America, but all over the world. The star of spiritual power is the doorway and pathway in each man's being to his own victory and freedom. And it must be won. It cannot merely be bestowed. If it were so, God would long ago, by reason of his omnipotence, have bestowed upon mankind the fullness of their inheritance, and have seen to it that that inheritance would remain fixed, immovable, in the consciousness of all. The fact that he has not done so ought to call to your attention that responsibility is discharged into this octave, and God in you is the active principle that is required by the law itself to be invoked and sustained. You cannot expect, nor ought you to do so, that nature or nature's God will rally to your cause if you do not respond to the great ministrations of the powers of light. The graft and greed of the world must be counteracted. You cannot sit idly by. Decrees and prayers must be charged with the faith that moves the mountains of human adversity. And some results have been forthcoming. You have achieved in the past a remarkable progress, considering the amount of energy invested upon the scale and measuring that amount against the relatively great amount of that which mankind have willy-nilly invested in their own supreme ideas of mortal dominance, which have brought so much untold misery to the universe and to the planet itself. While the universe stands by, witnessing the wanton destruction of eternal rights and principles by mankind, mankind themselves fiddle as Nero, while all of their virtues and inheritance is burned away by the forces of shadow and darkness. Taken from them, robbed from them, sacked, and in ashes they are, and they know it not. They mourn not the loss of that which they do not treasure, and they do not treasure it, for they have not entered into the heart of it. And the heart of it stands here today, waiting your acceptance of the power of God to come in, to commune, and to sup with you, and to make you aware of mastery, self-mastery, that means the freedom of mankind for all life upon earth. This eve, it is our hope to let the great divine director speak to you of things to come and victories to be won, and his own wondrous ideas and charges of light for the food of the angels to your souls. Listen well and mark the intelligence which he brings, and understand the meaning of the power of freedom in this day to be asserted by a sovereign people whose rights are God's rights. For God himself, the Almighty One, has bestowed upon you with your birth a right. It is your birthright. To forget it is to forget God. To forget God is to destroy the nation, and to affirm God and his power in this nation is to make bold a stroke of genius for the incoming new age. I trust that some of you will give sober consideration. Dare I hope that all of you will respond, one and all, to the nobility and the faith and the power of freedom to assist your fellow men? They know not what they do. Why then rally to their cause? Rally to our cause, and hence we shall strike a blow for God freedom, and for the dignity of Christ's manifestation to the entire earth. We care not what mortals think, for their thoughts are confused, and their thoughts are molded by one another. We are concerned with what God thinks and what he desires to do, and we are determined by all of the determination of heaven to fight the good fight of faith, to lay hold upon eternal life for you all, that the promises of God may be kept, because men have accepted their keeping themselves, and have understood their own role and how they must play a part in the great White Brotherhood's activity of freedom for the earth. You cannot expect that these activities shall be fully transferred to mankind except you shall enter in yourselves into the action of producing the freedom from the eternal matrix, of producing freedom from eternal energy, of producing purity from the essence of God's delight. Ladies and gentlemen, I commend you to the keeping of the great God flame within, and I invoke the power of that flame to reinforce your lives with its stabilizing influence. And thus shall I in this age, as your knight commander, know within the recesses of my heart and within the fortress of my life and its energy that here below a worthy lot are successfully drawing forth from God ever new victories for the cause we love, for freedom and freedom's delight. I thank you in God's name and bless you. Sign of the heart and the head and the hand to you. May the peace of your presence abide with you wherever you are, wherever you go. May the glorious peace from your presence flow through days of service and nights of rest. May the glorious peace from your presence keep you blessed. Sign of the heart, the head, and the hand to you. May Gautama's cosmic cross of white fire watch between thee and me, and between all of us, as we are absent one from the other, and keep us united by the bond of the flame. In God's name, I am. Keepers of the flame, persevere and win. O infinite love, our tutor, gratitude to thee, and may thy peace and beneficent ray flow throughout the earth, the white flame fire of infinite love. I am come this night, surfeited with remembrance of him, and of the luster of his untarnished image. I recall to this hour, not only from the records of Akasha, but from the beauteous records of my associations with the Master Jesus in that lovely Galilean embodiment when he manifested the full perfection of God with such tenderness and power, for he was a mixture of tenderness and power. I recall well how he spoke to us in tones of love individually, counseling us and giving us admonishments far beyond that which you would think would be given to ignorant fishermen. And to those of us who today would be lightly esteemed by the mankind of earth, and our profession scarcely honored, yet in this day, removed now 2,000 years from our evolvement with him, you will find that Christendom is most ready and willing to honor us as they would the dead. But we are living beings, and our memory is charged with the wonder of God's love and the hours we spent with the divine manifestation of his beloved Son. The tenderness he exhibited to us privately was not always exhibited to the world at large. And I recall some of the thundering denunciations which he gave in ringing tones to the mob, calling them hypocrites, self-righteous, and people of greedy heart. They did not take kindly, beloved ones, to these chastisements, but because of the multitude of the people who were drawn by the magnetism and fire of his being, they dared not raise a hand against him until his hour had come. The hour when, by prior agreement, the infinite protection of light which always surrounded him would at last be lifted, in order that destiny might be fulfilled and prophecy might have her day. Blessed ones, I recall how that the mob did on one occasion seek to press him over the edge of a cliff and cast him down upon the stones, that they might prematurely deprive him of life. The Master gazed at them on this occasion with great love, and the love in his eye became so dazzling that it was like the noonday sun. Many of them winked, and as they winked, they found that their eyelids begin to flutter more and more. And finally they could gaze upon him no longer, and in that moment when they could not see him, and they all seemed to be plucking something from their eye, the Master made a circuit of the crowd and managed to conceal himself behind a tree. I remember how those of us who were with him were deeply concerned lest he be sighted by the mob and pursued. But when we sought him behind the tree, he was not there, and the manner of his escape was never revealed unto us. Blessed and beloved ones, I smile now with joy as I think of how the Master outwitted the mob. Yet, precious ones, those among mankind who are somewhat more inclined to the supernatural would like to attribute to him the power to vanish from their sight. Well, prior to his ascension, blessed ones, the Master seldom exhibited that power, and prior to his resurrection, he seldom exhibited that power. For it was after these two occasions that he came in a more than ordinary manner. However, he did, on a few occasions, surprise us by the projection of his consciousness out of the body in a form which appeared to be his physical body and had all of the accoutrements and appearance of a solid flesh form. However, blessed ones, those things which the Master did were not always recorded for mankind to understand, and some of it was a bit distorted from the eyewitness account which we perceived. But the lexicon of his manifestation and the recording of his words, which ye have today, is very authentic in the main in its record. Some distortions, however, have occurred, as in all historical matters, and this is quite understandable. But I am sure that you will appreciate that the character of his love, the transcendence of his manifestation, would quite naturally sink down deeply into our hearts, who were with him then and are with him still. Precious ones, it has been decided by the lords of karma and the great beings of love who commune with me in the retreat that I ought to speak to you tonight somewhat concerning the re-embodiment of masterful souls upon the planet. Therefore, by way of giving cosmic instruction, it is my desire to communicate to you revelations and measures of divine comprehension which will feed your souls upon the bread of love and make you more like the Master in all of his wonderful manifestation of love to mankind. It is no desecration for you to be godlike, and it is no desecration for you to be Christ-like. When the hour comes that you should gather round about yourselves individuals that might profit by your instruction, I am sure that the magnetism and fire of your heart, as it did in Jesus' case, will draw to you those who are able to profit by the experience of knowing you, and therefore God will be glorified in you, and this is as it should be. Precious and beloved ones, I speak now then of the little children. Suffer the little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. Know you not then, precious ones, that ancient men of great wisdom, ancient political figures, and ancient historical personages are often re-embodied along with the life streams that they are with in a particular segment of the stream of time. Therefore, gracious ones, whereas you regard figures from the past as being historical, and you feel that they are remote in time and space from you, often those individuals are right with you. For example, precious ones, there are only a few who are aware of the fact that Abraham Lincoln, now late to this age, was a Pharaoh of Egypt, and responsible for a most tyrannical action of slavery, whereby many of the great pyramids and buildings in Egypt were builded under his direction. The hard lines and visage of his countenance left its mark even upon his Lincolnian embodiment. Yet this great and good man transformed through the ages into a man of heart and compassion, a man of tenderness for the people of a great nation, did perform an act which he felt to be most virtuous to this nation in which you live and where I am speaking. He sought to bring emancipation to a people imported from foreign shores and cast into the mold of slavery against their will and in a state of ignorance of all of the accoutrements of civilization. This man then, after he had performed this service by reason of certain karmic action involving his life in Egypt, was assassinated to the loss of the nation. But the acts that he did perform have endured to the present hour and endeared him to many of the hearts of the people of this sovereign land. Understand then that as coming events cast their shadows before them, so cosmic events illumine the pages of the future, and the power of love would emancipate all men from every form of bondage. It is love that is the power of God to free men, and it is love that will win a triumph for all. This was the teaching of Jesus, imparted to us as the love of God is the key to your freedom. The love of God is the beginning of wisdom. The love of God is the power of cosmic purity. Gracious ones, may I ask you most graciously to still your minds. There are a few individuals in this room who have not yet learned that their own thoughts and feelings are a source of interference in the delivery of our words to those who yearn to hear each one of them. I urge you, therefore, under the bonds of karmic penalty, to refrain from movement in so much as is possible, and be still, that I may finish all that which I have elected to do for the sake of all who are here, that they may have the full benefit of that portion of instruction set aside by the Great White Brotherhood as necessary in the development of mankind in this age. Some of this instruction may seem most simple to you and most basic, but it is the requirement of the hour that you have mediated for you those points that are of greatest necessity in the freeing of your world from misconceptions about life. So long as you harbor misconceptions, blessed ones, the misconceptions which you harbor have a tendency to crib you in within a framework of mortal reason. And when you are facing a dilemma requiring the full activity of your life stream, at that precise moment, you will often find that human activities will give rise to subconscious reactions which will blind you to the right course of action and prevent the right course from manifesting. You must follow me most carefully, beloved ones, for I reference here the power of subconscious ideation and habit patterns to hold mankind back and prevent them from assimilating or accepting a needed point of instruction so that they may find their freedom through the activity of the God flame within their own hearts without seeking it from another. I do not decry those who seek from another assistance in plotting their course, I simply wish to point out to all that the power of love would bestow upon every life stream the means of cosmic comprehension of self and the universe, which would enable that one to steer a straight course to the harbor of heaven, the home of God's love. Gracious ones, calling your attention now back to the fact that again and again the same individuals return to the screen of life, I would point out to you that he that would be great among you must be the servant of all. I would also point out to you that many of those who, so to speak, in your own vernacular, share the limelight with the great of the world, are those whose karma is very heavy. For in positions of power, they have sometimes in the past defied the people and caused untold grief to millions, or perhaps only to thousands. In order then to balance the great scales of justice and provide for the freeing power of love to act in their world, they are returned to positions of power in order that they may manifest assistance to a great number of people, thus balancing the debt that they have unto life. Envy not, then, those who may hold positions of power. Seek to be whatever God would manifest through thee. Seek to understand thyself above all, and be true unto thyself, and unto thy word, and unto thy fellow man. For in so doing, the instruction of thy life as it is lived is a more learned voice and effective voice in molding human lives and bringing the essential power of freedom to bear upon the lives of others than any other activity that you could do. This is not only the voice then of experience and the voice of love, but it is the utilizing of experience in order to activate your worlds as God intends, as examples of right manifestation. Oh, for the power of a good example among men. Oh, for the power of those who think in terms of right examples and prefer to be such an example unto men, even to being thought wise. These, as beloved Paul, the late apostle, may say in truth, I am a fool for the sake of Christ. For those who yearn to exalt themselves will surely find the necessity of debasing themselves. And those who debase themselves to the very nadir of their worlds and seek to evolve a pattern of pure love for God will enhance their opportunities and the opportunities of all with whom they come in contact. Now then, may I recommend to you the ascended masters. May I recommend to you the words of the ascended masters as God-free words, words that seek not to imprison the mind or the soul, but to let the tiny bird of the consciousness go free. At this point, I would like to digress for a moment to the great love that the Master Jesus had for the birds of the air. It was interesting to us to witness him, often standing alone, gazing at the flight of the birds, as though he would ingrain it upon his own mind forever. We sometimes speculated among ourselves as to just what he saw in the birds, and he did not always reveal all of his thoughts, but often kept them to himself, occasionally drawing one disciple aside from the group and imparting to that one some sacred bit of knowledge which we felt necessary to conceal within our hearts, as did his mother Mary. Thus, the power of love seemed to do strange things to us. At times the power of love seemed to divide us into groups. And there were some who did not respect my place beside the Master. They often seemed just a bit jealous with a human vibratory action because I stayed so close to the Master's footsteps. And I often secretly chided myself as to whether I should continue to do this, lest I cast a stone of stumbling before my brethren. But then, in discussing this with the Master Jesus, he placed both his hands upon my shoulders, and gazing deep into my eyes said, "John, this is not God speaking within thee. For thy closeness to me is the closeness of a spiritual brother. And we were once that close, not only spiritual brothers, but brothers of the same father and mother in a past embodiment. And the bond between us was very great. Stay beside me, and fear not what men shall think of thy acts. For in me thou seest God, and it is his love and magnetism that thou wouldst evoke from thy association with me. Stay beside me, John, and feel the flame of love that glows within me, that by proximity to my being thou mayest share this blessing which I adore. For my communion with God is the sole purpose of my life, and I feel only the compassion and infinite tenderness of longing to impart all that I am and all that I feel to everyone. And it is almost enough to tear the skin of my heart and let the love rush forth as a torrent. But I have been commanded to hold my peace and keep within me the virtue that God has placed there. Thus, recall, beloved John, recall how that when the woman touched the hem of my garment, I was aware that virtue had gone out of me. Guard thy virtue, beloved John. Guard the grace of God that is within thee, and impart it to the faithful, for they will cherish it. Others will cast it upon the ground as a pitcher of precious water, borne into the desert for the sustenance of life. They will not treasure it. They will cast it on the ground, and the dust will lick at the vitals of the water, and it will evaporate in the sun, and will be gone, a profit to none. Retain thy virtue within thee then, that thou mayest share it with the hungry, and may give it unto those who thirst after righteousness, that they may be filled, is my prayer. Know this, O John, and hold fast to that which God hath given unto thee. And it came to pass on one occasion that our Lord was transfigured before more than the 3 recorded in the Scriptures. On one occasion, there were 7 of us that went apart into a high place, and we knelt in prayer. And this occasion was after the recorded incident where Peter and I journeyed to the mountaintop. On this occasion, the light of God enveloped some of us to such a degree that we rose into the air and were lifted at least 2 feet above the ground. And when we came down, we were somewhat addled for a moment, so great was the intensity of the light. And the Master Jesus said unto us, Hearken unto me, beloved ones, for the light of God, the great cosmic wine from his heart, must be cherished most carefully. Otherwise it might make thee seem as though thou wert drunken men. Learn then the power of containment of spirit when dealing with God, for his infinite love is like the lightning with imprisoned splendor. And when that love descends upon the hearts of men, in some cases it repels them from the experience because they have not cherished virtue, and it seems to them as a foreign object had intruded itself into their world. Therefore the parable of the servant cast into outer darkness does explain unto mankind that it is necessary for them to have a wedding garment of the character of the Master all around about their shoulders as love in action, for otherwise they will be but a tinkling cymbal and a sounding gong that men will hear and will not respond unto. You must understand then, blessed ones, how that the teachings of Jesus which he imparted unto us were far greater than that which has been recorded in Scripture. For the true Scripture is that which is Akasha, the mighty tomes of his virtue, which the written and recorded Scripture only does partly justify. He was indeed wonderful, a Prince of Peace and a Prince among men. He was indeed the mighty God and the everlasting Father. We often speculated as to what association we had had with him in the past that had enabled him to draw us and magnetize us out of the multitude. And so our hearts were glad that it did exist. And when he did explain to us somewhat in how we had been associated with him in divers embodiments, we rejoiced, and our brotherhood increased. Precious ones, when you understand then how that through the tides of history, life streams have flowed forth from God, manifesting both comic and tragic aspects upon the stage of life, when you understand that men and women of virtue have lived side by side with the dark threads of those who have given themselves over to the dark ones, you will realize how difficult it is for the powers of light, functioning in a domain of God's free will, to reach into the tangled threads of mortal life, and even with all of the emanations of divine love, free mankind who have the power to do as they will, and often exert that power to their own hurt. O precious ones, the world could be free today if even 3 years ago enough people had hearkened to the divine presence within them. It is primarily then because of the numbers of mankind who are engaged in a nefarious activity, because they, precious ones, exert the dark curtain of ignorance over the masses of the people, and their hearts are darkened, and they do not perceive the light of the Christ, nor do they perceive his light within themselves, and there is the greatest of errors. Nor do they perceive his light within one another, and this is another gross error. Precious ones, understand then that love, in order to be intensified, must be adored rightly. But the love that you must adore is the love that is the law of God, written in your inward parts, and by which the physical body also itself does function in a right and proper manner. Divine harmony exists within mankind, and it is the harmony of love that sustains that which you call the quality of health. It is the divine quality of love that sustains that in man which you call wealth, and all good qualities that are beneficent to mankind are retained by the power of love and lost by the power of selfishness and greed. Those who would be the greatest servants then to God are the greatest givers of themselves unto him. And they tire not neither day nor night in his praise and service. They take complete delight in the wonders of his nature and being, desiring to cultivate within themselves the new culture that manifests from the heavenly New Jerusalem consciousness. For that which is the old Jerusalem, that which savours of the world, is the transitory, the ephemeral, that which passeth away. This is mortal love. This passeth away and changeth, because its roots are in the pleasures of self and the gratification of men's own desires. But the love of God seeks the eternal bestowal of infinite understanding and compassion. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me, is often forgotten in the press of natural affection, and that natural affection is turned into that which is against nature, and the karmic scales are tipped, and again recordings are made that ought not to be made. Let then thy adornment be the wedding garment of thy risen Savior, of thy holy Christ's self descended from the heart of God. Let the wedding garment of the Master fall gently over thy shoulders, but keep the fire of that garment within thy heart. Hold virtue as being the most precious of gifts, for virtue is hand in hand the companion of love, and those who love truly and love God truly love his law and revere it. Brethren, love one another, but love God first with all thy heart, and thus shall thy love of one another be enhanced by the qualities of God. As I tutor you this night in a new appraisal of his love, it is not with a lofty air of disdain, but it is in memory of his presence and the proximity that we, the apostles of Christ, did share jointly in. Let the peace of the risen Savior rest upon thee now. Let the peace of the risen Savior be the light to which you bow. Let the peace of the risen Savior be the lodestone of thy heart, casting burdens from thy being, letting joy from him impart a glow of fervor to thy soul, a means of raising, making whole. Thou art a part of God, a fragment of his light so bright. Hold then reverence for his word, and let that word make right all thy doings in the fold of God. One shepherd heads it all, for he is king, the shepherd king. Don't you hear him call, I am the risen Lord. I seek thy very all. Compassion now adored evokes God's will for all. Be at peace and be in love with God and strength and raiment fair. This is the garment of the Lord descending through the air. The light rays, tangible, beauteous, bright, that weave thy holy garment right. These are the strands of God's own substance. From his hand they make you free. These are the strands of God's own radiance, descending now for you and me. We're all made whole by God's own soul, the thoughts he holds for all. We're all made whole when ears are oped to hear his every call, the word to all impart. the love of God to heart, is torch, a faggot bold, to kindle flame anew. This makes the heart, the life all gold, and solid through and through. You are the children of his heart, not children of the dark. Awake, awake, make fresh thy start, to seek the fate of love's own lark, the bird of heaven, winging now as dove, to keep the holy vow. It bears the olive branch of peace, the risen Savior's kiss imparts. Accept the truth, the life, the breath, the fragment of the spark. By the great power of his love, I saturate now all in this audience with that love and love of communion with God. Thy body as a holy grail retains the light that cannot fail, so long as thou thy will hold firm upon the flame that cannot burn, except to burn that mortal thing that lacks the quality of heaven's ring. When thou art free from all that's dross, ye suffer not one single loss, but only blessings of the free. I am that faith that raiseth thee to love's own throne, where God does hold a vision of thy future bold. Retain thy power and God's own love, so freedom comes to thee from above. In the name of the ascended and risen Lord Christ, trumpeting his victorious love over the earth, I, John, known as the Beloved One, call unto you and say, each of you are the Beloved One. And I ask you, in the name of the Christ, to forget it not. If thou must return unto the law of Moses, out from the realm of grace, to bind this law upon thy heart as in days of old, thou wouldst do well, and break no commandment of love and grace. For this word is the secret of thy freedom. Keep it, and surely thou shalt know that love which I saw in the incarnation of the Master Presence, the King of Kings, they called him, and he will always be that unto me. May he always be that unto thee. I thank thee.
See
O flame of faith, arise, kindle in the hearts of men the depth of the richness of his love. I am witness to his love. Ye are witnesses to his love. And all those who followed in the wake of his mighty Galilean mission are witnesses to his victory and triumph. Our faith is not dependent upon the attitudes of men. Our faith is not dependent upon the passing modes of the times. We find our faith rooted in the internal truth. The knowledge that is within ourselves is like the North Star, ever true, never inconsistent, but filled with the depth of the richness of his being. We identify and we are made partakers of the eternal majesty. Ladies and gentlemen, followers of God as dear children, the hour is at hand when the earth shall find new life. The hour is at hand when the life of the Christ, impenetrable by comparison and by ratio, shall be accentuated, and it shall be as though mankind, like Rip Van Winkle, had slept all these centuries insofar as the great knowledge of God which shall be vouchsafed unto man. Yet, ere this day shall dawn, there shall come also some dismal hours, fraught with some substance of human pain and doubts. For the earth must be bathed yet in some remnant of her returning karma. Yet mankind would do well to hold fast the faith and to understand that that which appears upon the outer screen is not the knowledge of God, but it is the knowledge of man as coming events have cast their shadows before them. For the karma of the world, like a giant shadow, is often cast before, and future events are made known to the hearts of men trembling in the cup of life and waiting in hope a release from the heart of God, yet observing the passing scene and knowing not which way to turn. There is but one way, blessed ones, to turn, and that is to your own mighty God presence, to hold fast at all times to the depth of the Eternal One that springs up within your heart as a mighty well of life everlasting, and refuses to be swayed by mortal thought and feeling. Recognize then, O blessed disciples of the Christ in this day and age, that the tests and trials of life are still with men, and that it is by rising out of those trials, out of those human frustrations and fears, out of all that mankind have known that has bound them through the centuries, that you shall know the one and only true God and the mighty tide of faith that is the faith of his own heart. Blessed ones, the heart of God knows no room for doubt, and if you would harbor doubt within yourself, it is ungodlike and therefore to be shunned. Those men and women of old who did not have the modern blessings which you have, those men and women of old who faced a political suicide by their acceptance of the knowledge of God and of Christ, did not look to the right nor to the left, Unwavering were they in their constancy, to deny him not, but to affirm him on every hand, in an age when hostility was not of the type which you face today, but a barbarism which often meant death in the Roman arena, or took from them a frightful price beyond that which mankind face today. Yet, precious ones, there is, as we know, a certain frustration which you face in this day and age when you often cannot stand and fight with physical instruments of battle, but must battle in the realms of the Spirit and for the overcoming of the hordes of darkness which would invade the mind not only of the youth of the world but also of the aged ones, with feelings of decrepitness, with feelings of aging, with feelings of unfulfilled cosmic desires as well as mortal ones, and with the sense that perhaps all of their faith is in vain, and they will not, after all, find the victory they expect at the end of the road. These conditions, blessed ones, are direct projections from the brothers of the shadow and from the massy fluvia of the mortal mind and consciousness. They have no power in the realm of God's light, for the law of God is a law of sustainment, whereby the spirit of man is buoyed up on wings of light, and understands and comprehends not in the realm of human dimension, but in the realm of cosmic accomplishment. You must understand the need then to forsake the so-called gods of Rome, the gods whom men sometimes label the unknown God, by recognizing that you yourselves are at war as upon Mars Hill. And you must understand that the one and only true God, your own mighty I Am Presence, is a mighty flame of life that appeared unto Moses in the burning bush, and was able to set the children of Israel aflame so that they could cross on over the desert and the tumult thereof, over all of the fears and frustrations of the multitude, into the land of promise, flowing with milk and honey, and accept the wondrous wafers of divine delight from the hand of God, and be fed the manna from heaven which descended from angelic hands. O mankind of earth, you must understand the span of faith that has also emerged from the very heart of God in the beginning, when he fashioned all things in the tabernacle of his heart and being, and conceived how that a great stream of faith should penetrate not only from higher octaves of light, but also as well springs from on high within his children below, so that the light that is above might unite also with that light which is below, and in the flashing flame thereof an awareness of being come into manifestation, evocation of God's heart and command, the priesthood of Melchizedek. Those who understand the meaning of the bread and wine, those who understand the meaning of covenant keeping, those who understand how that God keeps his eternal promises, not only for this day and age, but spanning all eras and cycles of the past, and enabling men to raise their hand as a shadow over their eyes and face the light of God that does not fail. In that bedazzling light, they are able then to see afar, and finally they can drop the hand, for they have brought into manifestation within their own being an understanding of the penetration of his light, and they welcome his light, they welcome his grace, they welcome his fire and his reality as their own. There is, as Jesus taught, a great darkness abroad in mankind, a darkness which seemeth to be light. And he warned them of this condition, saying, If the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? It is not great at all, blessed ones, for it cometh to naught with the first blush of the light, And as you pursue the path, onward and ever upward, there will be a diminishment of the darkness within you, and a penetration of the light, until the very substance of your being will take on those luminescent qualities of the Father of all. You are charged by His flame within your heart with a covenant, and this is the covenant of life. Life that throbs within you, life that seeks to burst the bonds of mortality and raise you as a seed or as a sapling into a mighty towering tree of life. You are intended to be victors and not vanquished, and all that has hitherto been upon the earth, all the clanking of Roman armor, all the conditions of might and power, these are as naught beside of the power of the Lord God of hosts. You have heard of angelic beings. You have heard of the angels of my band, the healing angels of cosmic love and comfort. Know then that the legions of light are captained and commanded by mighty beings from on high, archangels and other grades of the heavenly host. It would make no difference if I were to delineate them all for you and show you rank upon rank of seraphim, of cherubim, and of other types of angels. The important thing is the conditioning of your consciousness so that you are able to assimilate their love as they stand ready to pour into the chalices of your being the full-blown momentum of aeons of cosmic service. Do you know what it means to have aeons of cosmic service at your command? Well, blessed ones, as you gaze upon the stars, and as you come to understand the universe with greater rapport, your hearts will mount in faith. But when you understand that some of these angelic beings have served for aeons, whereas some of you have served for perhaps a few short years, you will recognize by the power that you have drawn forth in holy prayer, whereby you are able to move conditions from your own world, and by the mighty tide of faith produce the miracle of cosmic healing for others who are in pain. You will understand then what it means to take the momentum of an angelic being and release it into the chalice of a mortal being, flooding that one with a feeling of buoyancy and God delight which shakes the earth to its foundations and enables men to renew their hope in the eternal covenant of life which beats their heart. You need not fear, blessed ones, to commune and to entertain angels, for they are safer friends oftentimes than those you call your friends here below. They will not betray your best interests, nor will they seek to rob you of purse or person. They will bestow upon you the gratitude of God that you, a being whom He has created, stands ready to hear the edict of faith in this day and age, and put your shoulders to the wheel of life to assist the cosmic hosts in a mutuality of divine love. Beings below entering into immortal covenants. When I spake earlier of the priesthood of Melchizedek, it was to affirm the faith of that ancient and sacred priesthood that spans the centuries and speaks to men today of the need to hear the voice of God within themselves. Mankind hear many voices in this day and age, and as they who stood upon Mars Hill had heard many voices before mine as it rung out before them in that day, so, blessed ones, mankind have heard many voices and are still hearing them, but they do not know the voice of that blessed one crying in the wilderness of life, desiring to remove from the screen of their mind and consciousness every wisp of confusion and bewilderment, and bestow upon all His gratitude for their acceptance of His love, which permits bestowal upon the creation. Noblesse oblige, gentility, peace, all these qualities invite the Eternal One. Humility and delight in His law, and an awareness of brotherhood, and how brotherhood can change the world. I hear men and women throughout the world speaking of brotherhood, and their hearts are dark with the thoughts of competition. We know in the heavenly octaves the need to shed those conditions and to accept the authority of Almighty God. He utters His dictums, and the saints obey with alacrity and joy. Have you heard the expression, to leap as a young hart or as a roe? Do you know what it means to see a joyous reindeer in the woods, to leap into the air with a vibrant feeling of life? The little creatures, then, of the forest are often annoyed with mankind because mankind seek to take their life. And the hunt is on, the merry chase, the sport of man's delight. And fear flashes through the forest. Think then, precious ones, what it means when soldiers in battle know that they are the bounty, and the bounty hunters are those who are after their own skin, brothers desiring to kill brothers, and to create all over again the sin of Cain. In this day and age, when men's hearts are quaking and shaking for fear, when the crisis in Vietnam looms in the consciousness of mankind, when the strange and mysterious objects in the sky are denied by your Department of the Army and Air Force, when the world is aflame with heart turned against heart, whereas it ought to be aflame with heart turned to love heart, I am reminded again of the ancient covenant of life, and I say to you as to the men of Mars Hill, as I passed by, I beheld your worship, and I beheld an altar with the inscription, to the unknown God, whom ye therefore ignorantly worship. Him declare I unto you, God that made the earth and all things therein requireth not to be worshipped in a temple made with hands, seeing that He made all things. But He is the God of very gods that beats your life, as certain of your poets also have said. We are His offspring, and ye are the offspring of God, children who ought to return to His heart with such compassion and feeling of God delight that you would no longer be content in the anesthetizing atmosphere of the world, and those who worship in the commercial marts of the world, to commercialize the credulous and to reveal to mankind the conditions which they themselves have established in order that they might enrich in their coffers. Oh, blessed and beloved ones, the path of God is not so, but the path of God is one where commitment of the heart involves the total being of man in an act of faith that is grandiose, because it spans the centuries with the saints and with all those who were not content to worship merely for a moment, but desired to make an eternal offering that would, in the modus operandi and manner of those blessed and beloved priests of the sacred fire of the order of Melchizedek, cognize that God that made all was the God of very gods. That God that made all from the beginning, and made all without ending. There can be no death then, only a cessation of activity within a temple. And the spirit of life, when it is fled from that temple, resembles also the broken columns and the ancient temples of Jupiter and Apollo and others. The votaries have fled. The flame does not burn there anymore. And as dust returns to dust, the spirit of man is not confined within, and there is no part of reality that is confined within, but the little atomic power that is within each atom of substance continues to burn. And the life, the force, the power, the dimension, the cosmic grandeur of God burns in every grain of sand. But in thee as soul, and the substance of soul, which you must not lose or cast lightly away, but retain as faith in the ancient mysteries, the nurture of the soul was taught, and as men cared for and tended the fields and flocks of their heart, so they cared for and nourished their souls. And they yearned to draw more of that flaming substance of the soul from the heart of God, as talent, as accumulation of virtue, as purity, as qualities of light, as the Christos, as the one God, the fabric of Him and His reality. Now then, as the world trembles today, we tell you that there is a need for a world resurrection. Hold now this thought. Not the world as a world of sin, not the world as a world of pain. God did not make that. Not the world as a world of decrepit individuals. God did not make them. Not the world as minds and hearts without hope. God did not make them. Self-made are they, but not self-made, inflicting upon the clay and the plastic substance of their being all of the old and ancient boredoms of mankind, all of the old and ancient conditions born of unrighteousness. Now then, and be still, individuals who are here whose thoughts wander, for I am developing here a theme which I do not wish to be interfered with. For the sake of those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, that they may be filled, I come. Bear with me then all, and hear me, as I speak to you this night, to say unto you that the body of God upon earth liveth, and those who have not drunk into His kingdom are not. They are as they who were slain before Sennacherib, as the hosts lay dead upon the hillsides when the death angel passed over. They are not alive. They have not lived. They do not yet breathe. Yet they are images, abominations of desolation, standing in the holy place of life where they ought not. But simultaneously and present upon earth, the body of God is alive, and as the infant Messiah grew to become the manly Christ upon the hillsides of Judea, to reach out and make of the world a parish, so does the body of God upon earth come into a new activity, a cohesive force, a mighty power of the Infinite One sweeps the earth around to bind the hearts of men together, to bind up the broken-hearted, and to make them one, that their faith may manifest action today to change the world and those conditions which men say cannot be changed. They speak only from a dearth of divine knowledge and from a historical sense. But what of history, blessed ones? How many men today have the full consciousness to roam the past ages, except through the minds of the historians and their distortions? We read the Akashic records, and by the mighty bonds of Akasha, we know how karma is administered today. But we are determined that the world shall know her freedom, and therefore we assert the liveliness of the body of God. We assert the life of the Infinite One, that which knows and knows that it knows God, life, majesty, and power. Fear not then, blessed ones, for the activity of only 12 disciples and the Master was able to stir the entire world and affect them to the present hour. Think you then that as the body of God comes to life in this day and age and is revitalized in a new and living faith, that changes will not be wrought? I tell you, they will be wrought. For this is reality. This is the consummate reality of the mind of God. It is a faith in His eternal principles. It is a faith in cosmic origins. It is a faith in that which gives you life and gave you life and will always be the sustaining virtue and preserver of your dignity and all that is grand about you yourselves. Without this, it is as though the wind were whistling through a chink in the cabin wall, and as though the dust were emptying itself upon dust, devoid then of the water of life, of the fire of life. The earth itself lies as though it were hopeless, and the sun calls the fires back from the heart of the earth, and the worlds decay, and the worlds are empty, and the worlds are a shell. But because the echo of God is heard in the heart, and His flame rises and pulsates upon the altar of the heart, because mankind have bound His love within themselves and have accepted it, and because the fervor of the saints endures to this day, we know that there is hope this Easter for a resurrection of spiritual attainment that will sweep the world and change these conditions. O blessed ones, do not think if we speak on a certain eve or day, and on the morrow it does not seem to you as though the world looks any duster, any different. Blessed ones, when it looks as though destiny is not changed, you must understand, precious ones, that this is only an appearance, and the change is wrought within the masterful spirit of man. Think you, precious ones, when you consider the realm of invention, that all of these inventions which you enjoy today, connected with electricity and connected with mechanical manifestation and labor-saving devices, came into manifestation in one day, but they did come into manifestation, blessed ones, in a very short time. And in less than a decade, they leaped into greater manifestation. Do you see then, precious ones, how the wisdom of God does release at a given time certain manifestations into the consciousness and keeping of mankind? Many of the inventors that brought forth so much wonder to the earth were ancient individuals who had been embodied in the days of Atlantis upon that blessed continent before it fell, and they retained in themselves the knowledge of mechanics and of water power and of the imprisoned lightning itself, which they release to mankind today. So also dark souls have come to the earth in this day, released unto mankind as children of rebellion, and the world is bilious because of the activity of that which these men and women have done, and the darkness that they have plotted within themselves to destroy the earth and its people, and destroy society and civilization by hate and hate creations, by selfishness and the holding of mankind in the grips of their own nefarious senses. God is not so. And these also, as a vapor appearing upon the window, shall vanish, for they have no power, neither shall they have any power, except for a short space of time, to hurt mankind. And those who will cleave to their own mighty I Am God presence, and will hold fast to the faith and remain, they shall remain as priests forever in the house of God, if they will make their calling and election sure. And this can be done, but only by the power of faith. And I stimulate in you the action of that faith tonight, because I am determined that even one individual who dares to defy the power of God within themselves because of their own senseless rebellion shall know that I am a friend of God and a friend of faith, as Abraham was. And I am determined to invoke the flame which we honor upon our altar here at Crete, for and on behalf of mankind. Eloi, Eloi, Eloi. Do thou hear me then, O beloved God, and send the angels of my band in limitless numbers, releasing comfort and healing to mankind, and let the world be bathed in that fragrance, in that radiance, in that sustainment, and let them know that faith in God is the means to raise civilization by their own bootstraps. For verily, verily, I say unto thee, thou art God, and God is thine, and in this union so sublime, compassion of the Lord is flung to all who hear the words, well done, and following on the path of light, will draw the sword of radiant white and fight the fight of faith today, and let the power of God hold sway, for he is Lord, and he alone can by his radiance for all atone, to wipe away the stain of pain and darkness and all that's vain, by love and love and love alone, the 3 times 3 that will atone. I am thy friend of light today, and God shall wipe thy tears away, by faith sustained and mounting then within the weary souls of men. I come, I say, it's time to stop the action of the worldly clock and let eternal radiance in. 'Twill banish all the power of sin and make you know that God can flow, and by his power let all know, I am thy God, the Lord of hosts. I count with angels, devas, saints the most, and with mankind as they awake, I'll steal their soul for God's own sake, and lift them to a place of joy, where bells ring out without alloy, but knowing, flowing, hoping then that God in men will purify and bring to all the truth. You cannot die, for God in thee will raise thee up from dust and all the mold of worldly conditions, until the sky is bright with noontide's light, and there you see the Lord in white, seated on a pearly throne of comfort neath vast heaven's dome. I am thy God, I love thee still, I love thee now and always will. I say, awake, thy garments shake, and feel the power that heaven can make. Ladies and gentlemen, to faith I bid thee rise. Let the peace of God caress thee. And as you go to slumberland this night, remember, he awaits your flight into his realm of light. This is not idle words, O blessed ones, but it is an offering of the Son of Sons. Consecrate ye yourselves anew unto God, and ye shall be free. I thank you for your attention upon the law of life and faith this night. And I sustain my banner here, and shall keep it raised, that men may praise God more each day, and find a mounting comfort in his way. Peace be with thee. I thank thee.